Hello everyone, this is AmberAnkNA here. Welcome to my channel. Well, I play a variety of games and do narrations for fanfics. I'm really hoping you enjoy my content. If you do, make sure to comment below, leave a like, and subscribe with the notifications on. Right, until next time, this is AmberAnkNA. Welcome to my channel. So, hi! Welcome to my very first story for that is brought to you by Jib. The one that basically another one shot that I did called She Shows Them. Jib wrote it, Clark published it. So basically this is the author that I be reading stories from. But this is if I get proof. And this is what I need be my obsession. To see if I get proof. So hi Jim. I know you'd be seeing this because I'd be basically saying this to you before I upload it to YouTube. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. This is called Christmas SARS. Christmas Eve 2021. Right the night before Christmas, and all through my house, no one stirred, not even a mouse. Fuck that. Santa Claus, Saint Nick, I stopped believing that crap a while ago. And nothing in my life has convinced me to change my mind. Why should I when my life is so shitty? It's been 8 years and a couple of months since I made my biggest mistakes. I give up coolly. Sorry about that. Of course, at the time, I thought I was doing the right thing. Right? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Even my college classes in college said the same thing. Majority is a clock is set. I took a gamble on doing the correct thing. She even asked me to do it, but all I can think of now is how pointless everything is. Every year at about this time, I get very depressed. Not because I'm unsuccessful or poor. I keep busy and have my photography course in, a business degree, and plenty of money. It's not physical. There's just this emptiness in my soul, like a part of me is missing. It haunts me constantly, especially during the holiday season. I miss Chloe so much. So during the holidays, I have nobody to share it with. Wasn't it supposed to turn out this way? KUB had been spared, but in a twisted sense of variety, everyone I knew has died. It's just so fucked up. Kitty got killed in a car accident 2 weeks after the storm. Warren, my Greeky science buddy, got shot in a bus wildly. Joy split from David after Chloe died, and I haven't heard anything from her since. It's like she fell off the edge of the world. And Victoria is still a bitch. Even if she's in a psych ward at Western State Hospital. Jefferson did a number on Vic. I even tried to warn her, but she refused to listen. The put salt on the open wound, Jefferson is still alive. He was released from prison after only 5 years. He apparently had friends in high places of the state government. Got himself a pardon from the fucking governor. And finally, last year, both my parents passed away due to the calculations of this fucking virus that's going around. I know I keep saying it, but it really wasn't supposed to be this way. I tried to make the right choice, but it looks like I was wrong. Besides, drawing on Chloe, all I can think of is the what ifs, and it's possibly bad right now. Over the years, I moved from place to place. Seattle was home for a while, but with the crime rate, protests, violence, and whole sense of the city becoming autonomous zones, I decided to take my camera and track around the country. Again, I like to keep myself busy. If for anything else, it stops the demons whispering in my head. I've been to Boston, New York City, Atlanta, the Old Docks, Apopella, Sancardo, Toronto, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Death Valley, and everywhere in between. All my photos have earned me a reputation that would make anyone successful. But my success doesn't mean happiness. It's just a hollow, empty, and selfish side effect of me not thinking about Chloe. This evening, I come back to the place where it all started. I sat down on the bench, a new one on the cliff's edge, and watched the sun touch the horizon, bringing about another Christmas Eve. It's been a while since I've been to the bay, what with me trying to keep occupied, but this fall I decided to return to my hometown. I purchased an older house that I'm slowly renovating, and it's only a few blocks from the true well. Again, it keeps me busy, keeping me from dwelling on my failures. I sighed, a deep, soulful exhalation until my lungs were empty. Then I took a slow, even breath of the crisp winter air. There I stayed, silently watching the golden hours slowly turn a jewel. My thoughts, though, kept going back to Chloe. It took a lot not to cry. I had to live with the consequences of my actions. Even if not a single minute has gone by that I haven't missed her so damn much. Nothing I can do about it. My powers disappeared the moment my dorky punk pirate captain died. Immediately, the sky darkened to show the sparks of impossibly distant light. I become familiar with the stars. They were the constant in my life that I could always count on, and each gave a small sense of peace to my troubled mind. I even named them officially, listing the people I once known and replacing the scientific designations. It was one that had put me in contact with the group of scientists that were part of the International Naming Committee. He had written it into his living will, and from the grave asked me to pick one for him posthumously. So when he passed away, it had been my painful duty to execute his last wishes. And while I was at it, I added ones for everyone I cared about. I cared about too. It was my way of making sure that whatever happened, they have a place in my universe. Stupid as it is, they put me at ease. I could feel them looking down on me, watching over me. Once is not visible at this time of year, but the geek is in the same constellation as the Filmora galaxy. Those two to the east are a pair of binary stars, Joyce and William. They always be together. The orange one next to the shape that looked like a rabbit was for Kate. The bright one to the southwest is for Rachel. Even if I didn't know her, I learned a lot about the woman from Chloe's writing. She always wanted to go back home to California and become a star. So I made her one. And then there's my North Star. No, it's not in the north, and it comes out mostly during the fall and winter months. It reminds me that it is during this time of year that I give up everything. I picked a pair of big blue stars that had been discovered in constellation Orion that some folks thought of as eyes. I named them for Chloe, and so as per the official registry, they were known as Bluebell's Grays. I even petitioned for Orion to be renamed the Huntress, but was denied. However, that's how I thought about the pattern inside. Symbolized everything about her, and having Chloe overseeing my nights give me some sense of peace. Sometimes I even imagine that I could almost hear the dark. Matt! The voice was so quiet it could have been the slight breeze through the pine tree box. I looked around but didn't see anyone. Just me, the bench, the lighthouse, and my stars. I thought I was alone, so when the person behind me quietly held the float, I jumped and fell over the bench. I was sure he wasn't there a second ago. Sorry, miss. Didn't mean to sorry you. Dolman struck out his hand to help me up. It was a polite gesture, one intended to fix the consequences of his actions. I reached for his hand and thin but strong I reached for his hand and thin but strong fingers curled around my wrist and forearm. There was a strength in his grip that was surprising for the slightly bent elder, and he effortlessly eased me up and back to a seated position. There you go, miss. No need to be scared of an old coder like me. Just here for the stars and a little exercise. Doc said I needed to use a few pounds. I noticed in the dim light he carried with him a bag slung over his shoulder. The trail part of the carried-all obviously had a camera in it. I had a number of them myself. I couldn't figure out what the long, circular hard case hanging down his back was. While I had originally wanted to be alone, the short man with the blue beanie curling his graying hair kind of reminded me of William. It was the same sparkle in his eye that I loved about Chloe's dad, like he knew something amazing. But I had to keep it a secret because of rules I would never know. He seemed kind enough, no threat for sure. Thank you. Sorry. I didn't expect anyone to be up here besides myself. I guess I'm a little jumpy. The man smiled, and his face almost had a glow of its own in the darkening twilight. Well, I've been meaning you no harm, madam. I'm just here to see the stars. Been coming up on Christmas Eve to this workout ever since the year that storm hit. You're here? Yeah, I was traveling through, which I often do this time of year, and saw it happen. Tough times back then, but I fell in love with this place. Been keeping an eye on it ever since. When I'm between jobs, I try to help everyone pick themselves up and get back to living their lives. I got a small house down the street from the diner that I use when I'm in town, which beats motels and the commute from home lets me stay longer. In my head, I caught myself up short. Hang on a second. What showing? I sacrificed my best friend to keep it from happening. I decided to ask the man what he meant. Wait, did you say storm? Yes, madam. It had to have been in 2015, something like that. 100 miles per hour gusts. The NOAA said it was a freak winter hurricane caused by a concurrent unsettled ill masses. It was just a bunch of gibberish, if you ask me. They obviously didn't know what caused it. Why do you ask? It sounded like you heard about it. Especially considering the death toll, over 300 died. My mind started racing. Also, while I've been away, major events had taken place. I had wondered a bit why some of the houses around Kia Bay looked only a newer than I remembered. 2015, that's 2 years ago, after the storm that I kept from happening. The 2 years after the storm that I kept from happening. The man continued, not waiting for a reply. Thank dog for that. I don't think I could explain rejoining time to a complete stranger. Nor what had I to give up in order to fix everything. My theory, well, really, it's just an old man's guess, is that nature had a pent-up tension that had to be released. Like a pile of potential energy that finally let go. It had probably been building for years. Like, it's great. Exactly. It really just gets to the breaking point, and then you get a shit-ton, excuse the language, of uncontrolled energy all of a sudden. In this case, the outside smell was like a battery, stirring up the energy until it burst. He shrugged. But what do I know? I'm no big brain government science guy. Government science guy. Haha. I was an interesting theory, and it made my brain hurt. What if the song was inedible, and that I had only postponed it? Chloe's life and sacrifice wouldn't have changed anything then. So emotions started to cribble me into a pit of despair. I decided to try to change the subject, though my voice cracked and gave away some of my inner turmoil. Taking it that this bag might hold a camera, I took a guess. So you're a photographer? Sort of like that. Yes, in my lines of work, artistic, if you're interested, you get to become an expert at all millions of things that go through the supply chain pipeline. Excuse me, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Cameras and all the gadgets that go with them kind of sucker fancy with me. And I've been an amateur ever since. Most of what I take is utter crap. Don't mind me saying. Something I found in neat in taking pictures of the night side. He reached around and patted the case, which he then unstrained and open. Folded up safely between cushions of form-filled foam was a crushable tripod and a long metal cylinder that I recognized as a telescope. Amongst the links, small adapters and eyepieces were neatly tucked in their own spots. I tried to get interested. It was an area of my art that I hadn't much experience with. So I put my mind to it, drawing on my years of practice. I began to think of how to go about getting the right shot. I knew all about low light imagery, but Traveling the tiny specks of light in the sky had required probably very different techniques. He noticed my attention as I watched him excuse me. Ugh, sorry about that. He noticed my interest as I watched him unbox the Christmas. Have you ever done night slave work? I take it from your work you got some experience behind the shutter. Uh-huh. I have a small but successful online studio. Kind of my passion. I didn't really want to talk about myself, but I never thought about doing this kind of work. It must be very different. He proceeded to remove parts and even set up the cell by as we continuing about how to take the best photos. The new photo cameras are set, breaking your part, and it doesn't matter how many megapixels you have. All the images need a ton of post processing, which in my opinion is cheating. You gotta use an old school film camera for the best results. Cost of forcing, I do my own developing, so it's not too bad for a person on a fixed income. He paused and pulled out a small headlamp and placed it on his covered head. Turning on a pillar light gives just enough illumination, but first with the old camera body and extracted from his other bag. Extracted from his other bag. The red light is to keep you from being night blinded. You get just enough to see, but without having to let your eyes constantly adjust. Also, when you want to pick out a specific section of the night fall. After seeing it in drafter where the winds would go, he flipped open the film tray and placed a new cartridge in place. Then he inserted the drafter into the place where the eyepiece would go and started fiddling with the small box that the telescope was mounted to, and the spice piece that sat between the long tube and the tripod. This little gem keeps the soap pointed at the same location and compensates for the Earth's rotation. Used to have to do it all manually, but now it hooks into my phone. Gets the current GPS coordinates and keeps the sight wherever I point it. The futuristic way he described its function almost made me think he was trying to steal me something. So it's like a steady cam they use in motion pictures, right? But isn't that cheating too? I mean, you did say that post-processing wasn't fair. Stop, turned to me, the dim light washing over me. The grin on his face told me that a little professional wibbing was just part of the game we all played. It was actually nice to talk to someone in the same circles. I found myself liking the company this evening. You're a little sassy, aren't you? Well, let's keep it a secret that I'm kind of hypocrite. I'm just getting too old to waste time messing with the manual clockwork version. I must rather spend time working up there. He pointed, then down here. He made a fine point. I felt the same way. I must rather be working through the viewfinder than all the stuff needed to run my business. Okay, I get that. It looked like he was done setting up, and he clicked off and removed the lamp around his head, but pulled his dark beanie off as well. He ran his hand through his thin gray hair and quickly replaced the cap. Hoo boy, it's getting cold here. In the darkness I could see white fog from his breath reflecting the glow of the moon that was rising in the east. The night was now completely dark, yet it was easy to see by its ghostly hue. I nodded agreement. After all, it's late December and Wild Carry didn't get snow often. because of the Pacific Ocean kept the temperature mild. This year, the weather forecast had said we were in for a cold snap. It was probably heading towards freezing tonight. So, what are you going to work at first? Well, usually I like to warm up a bit, take a couple of pictures of calmly photographed locations. Since it's the winter months, Iron will be up in the southern sky. On a pretty clear night, you can almost make out M42, Napoleon with the naked eye. He started pivoting the slope to the south where I knew the pattern of stars would be. He had to pick Orion, the one constellation that meant more to me than he known. Fuck, now I'm thinking about her again. I think I froze a little bit, and not from the trail ill. I had just started to enjoy talking with the old man. Ryan's general mannerism calmed me to say the least. As my heart shrunk, I must have made a noise, though I didn't hear it myself. The elder astronomer stopped what he was doing and lifted his eye from the small spotting soap attached to the main tube side. What is it, Mouse? I rather not. It's just so painful? He interrupted me, completing my sentence. They say wisdom comes from time and experience. The person in front of me looked to be about 85 years old. So I guess he had plenty of that. But that wouldn't explain. I decided to ask the question that popped into my mind. How did you know my name? Ah, that's easy. You remind me of a friend I used to visit. Her name was Maxine, but her friends called her Max. We had a falling out years ago. Words were said, and well, we haven't seen much of each other since. It's even stopped writing. What a coincidence. Apparently agreeing that it was very coincidental. But anyway, Max, what are you, why the feelings about Orion? It's one of the most popular constellations. And tonight is a good night to explore its beauty. Did you know the new space telescope discovered Orion's eyes? Not as slightly as my own eyes started filling with water. Yeah, I know about them. NSB 17702 and NSB 17703. I thought you said you weren't an astronomer. I'm not. It's just a chain of events happen. And I have the opportunity to at least make something to remember her by. A friend of mine put me up to it. Her? Yeah, Chloe. She was my best friend. I see. It's tough. The man turned back to his telescope, though not dismissing what I had just said. Have you seen the eyes, Mouse? I mean, in person? With a telescope? They aren't visible without magnification. I actually haven't. I've only seen the official pictures taken by the new astronomy that had been launched last year. When I see the images, it was like Chloe's perfect blue eyes. They're directly into my soul. No, I only seen what has been published. The only reason I was able to name them was because my friend Warrant that had some contacts with the National Registry. That's a good friend. He was. Was. My gloomy mood continued to grow. Yeah, he passed away years ago. I see. Politely the man turned back to his equipment. Didn't blame him. There really wasn't much he could say to make it any better. A long silence followed while he masterfully changed the angle of the telescope. It felt like hours of complete silence as he lighted up the sight to the complete place in the sky. Mouse, would you like to take a look? My gut told me that I didn't want to, and I hesitated as my emotions started to get the better of me. I feared what I'd find. In my mind, I could imagine seeing Chloe's disappointed expression, showing as he told me how much of a failure I was. I didn't think I could handle it. Mass? Tears streamed down my cheeks by the time he approached me, kneeling down in front of me. With the tips of his bony fingers, he lifted my chin to look me in the face. Through the wavy distortion of my wet eyes, I got a good look at him for the first time. The moonlight reflecting off his features, the old photographer had a kind, grandfatherly face, full of compassion. His almost white, bushy eyebrows contrasted with the stubble of his once bearded, slightly stripped chin. His cheeks had a rosy glow due to the cold, and his watchful blue eyes twinkled as they saw things I could only imagine. And a world of timeless experience surrounded him, and mixed with a kind of joy I only known once before. You missed her, don't you? All my heart. I'm so lost without my Chloe. It's like I... Excuse me. Ugh, sorry about that. The man let me go on, and I told him my story. It was like the floodgates opened, and for the first time, I was so confessing all my secrets. I couldn't help it. It's like how I used to be able to control time, or I had abandoned my shining star and love of my life. Then, when I got to my choices, how Chloe begged me to let her go, that I had to save the entire town because of one impossibly bright soul as sacrifice. The man slowly moved next to me and put an arm around me. If it would have been anyone else, it might have been creepy. But I only sensed from him an undying passion to help, and I automatically leaned my head on his shoulder. We sat like that until my sobbing turned quiet and the tears had run out. Moments passed in silence until I felt the man's body stiff as he held up an arm, pointing to the huntress in the sky. You know, the stars once brought tidings of great joy, or so the stories have said. It's been written across the entire history of this world from ancient times to the current day that events that occur in the skies that we can see up there have amazing implications for the people of Earth. It's almost a universal belief and hope, a feeling of belonging to something so evident, special, and amazing. Even if it is just a small part, there is the grand stage of creation, life, and yes, even death. They are all connected to the living universe we are part of. I lifted my head and I looked at him. He didn't turn toward me, still focusing on the sweeping hemisphere of brilliant stars. I wiped my eyes, sniffled a bit, clearing my dripping nose. Is that what you believe? I do. And to use your expression, with all my heart, we constantly discovering new places that we didn't know existed. And each spark above has the potential for countless soul that warms my heart, even when I'm at my worst. But what about the lost souls? The ones that are supposed to be here and aren't? My emotions had won their curse, but I couldn't stop myself from putting it out. The fuzzism in my throat made it sound harsher than I had meant. There's no such thing as a lost soul, Mass. Only one that has not been discovered. been found. You have to keep searching and believing. This is a night that the stars tell us of miracles. Do you believe in miracles? I used to, but not anymore. The man slowly dropped his arm and shook his head in disappointment. He sighed, placing both hands on his knees. He pushed himself upright and then turned to face me. There was no recrimination in his face. It's a sadness that he couldn't help. Maybe you've said, love and hope are powerful things, but belief ties them together. He fished out his phone from an inside pocket of his dark parcel jacket. I could hear it quietly vibrating. He poked at it a number of times until it stopped. Up to go, Math. I really hope you find what you're looking for. Then he moved away back to his torso and gathered his gear. With his head lamp back on his head, he walked towards the path down the hill. Stopped and turned to me. It was a pleasure meeting you, Max. Maybe Christmas. Then he left altogether, and I was all alone in the darkness. I don't know how long I remained there, but immediately the cold started to get to me, making my hands and face hurt. Decided I had to get home myself, pulling my phone from the back pocket. I looked at the time. It was just past midnight underneath the galaxy of stars on Christmas Day. Without thinking, I lifted my eyes and searched for the hunters who watched over me. Finding the pounded, I listened to the feaster that symbolized my best friend. Merry Christmas, Crow. Maybe I still did believe. I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to say. I quickly found my way down the trail, guided by the light from my phone, and walked the short distance back home. Christmas Day 2021. I don't remember much about last night after I got home. I got a couple of early morning drinks to warm me up, and somehow found myself way into bed. Bright morning light beamed through the small gap between the curtains and light into my eyes, making me turn to one side, then to the other. I threw the blanket over my head. I really didn't want to be awake, as I had nothing really to look forward to. I hadn't even put up the 3-foot tall Christmas tree I found in the attic when I bought the house. I tried to go back to sleep, but noises outside kept that from happening. Apparently some of the neighbor kids were messing around, giggling and shouting at each other, while playing with whatever new toys they had gotten as gifts. I buried my head under the pillow, but then I could hardly breathe. Fine. At least I could get up and make some coffee, but almost regretted it as I flipped the blankets across my queen-size bed. It was freezing in here, and goosebumps started falling on my arms and legs as they were exposed to the cool air. Holy shit! I immediately hunted around for something to wear instead of my nighttime t-shirt, my feet touching the cold raw floors, almost turning to ice. I mean, fuck, that's what it felt like. A capital F-U-C-N-K. I had apparently forgotten to turn up the heat in the old house because I hadn't expected the temps to get down so low. Thump! Something hit the side of the house. Thump! The hell? I turned towards the window nearest where the sound came from and pushed the curtains open. My eyes had to adjust as light was reflecting from everything in sight. Everything was completely covered in white, and the dome of sky above was completely cloudless. The sun's powerful rays made the scene almost too dazzling, and I had the strength to make it out. Snow? In the bay? I don't remember the last time that happened. But we seemed to have gotten a couple of feet during the early morning. The neighborhood kids were busy building snow people, throwing snowballs at each other, and dragging each other along the ice-covered road. Thump! That one hit the window, and a young girl in a pink overstuffed jacket, a stocking beanie, and with a soft wrap around her head was staring at the window and saw. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, based on her size. I opened the window and stuck my head out. The youth thought I was going to yell at her, obviously in a muffled voice. He apologized. Okay, it had been an accident. I could tell she was petrified and truly was sorry. I wondered about the madam part. Apparently, I was still a newcomer in this neighborhood, even if Bay was my hometown. I was just about to close the window when another voice coaxed the small kiddo. This person speaking was out of sight, but the tone was vaguely familiar. Wait till dawn! Stop throwing snowballs at the house! Now, come on! Try again! To hit me! Mom, my hands are cold. Can we go inside and have some chocolate? We see. We don't get snow very often. This is real life sales that you need to master before it's all gone. Now come on. See if you can hit the Captain Bluebeard. Ugh. Who? My heart stopped and even the scene outside froze more than just because the temperature. Everything was in status as my mind went into overdrive. Slowly, I looked around the room and started to notice differences while the small particles of dust mostly hanging in the room. In the air. There was a pile of clothes on the floor next to the opposite side of the bed. A picture on the wall was of me and Chloe, though I don't recall when it was taken. The bathroom, which I could see from the bathroom where I could see from where I stood had 2 towels on the hook, not one, 2 toothbrushes in the cup next to the sink. Most things like a bullet necklace laid on the dresser top next to a pair of gold rings. Time you do when I finished dressing and ran downstairs like a kid looking to be the first to the presents under the tree. In the front room, my small tree was standing. It was decked out with lights and ornaments, so much that there was not a single open space. Cactuses were placed here and there underneath. Everywhere I looked, as I turned in place, were full of Christmas decorations. Greeting cards set on the mantel, stockings placed beside the fireplace. I don't remember doing any of this, and I stayed memorized by the unique star at the top of the short tree because of its amazing boohoo it radiated. It could have been just a few minutes or a lifetime. I have no way of knowing, but I was interrupted by the front door opening, followed by a bird of pink that quickly ran up the stairs. I turned to watch the girl disappear around the upper corner and didn't see the woman that walked in next. Rachel, go clean up. Then we open presents. Woo! It's nippy out there, love. I gotta waste some presents before it all melts. The blood drained from my head and my legs turned to jelly. My voice was exactly as I remembered. Phil made my heart stop. Not of seeing my long-lost friend, but to maybe realize it was all in my head. Slowly I turned, wanting desperately to see Chloe for the first time in almost a decade. I even stopped breathing because sparkles started appearing in front of my eyes. A person straight into my view and wrapped her arms around me. Merry Christmas, Maximus, I asked. So he released me and stepped back, using only my eyes. It looked upon my best friend and love of my life. So wearing a heavy denim jacket that was lightly covered in snow. It was her blue beanie, a pair of unripped jeans, and a combat boots with the rest of her snow fighting gear. You're like you've seen a ghost, like in that story, right? A Christmas Carol. Get it? She struck off her jacket and threw it on the coat rack to the side of the doorway. We're wearing one of those ugly Christmas sweaters you see this time of year. To me, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen because since it assisted into its fabric with the words Master's Christmas present. I couldn't take my eyes off her as she sat down in the chair to unlace her wet boots. Straightwell, sorry about the window thing. We wanted you to sleep in. Which reminds me, I had a hell of a weird dream last night. I was just about to ask when footsteps pounded down the stairs and a high-pitched voice announced that it was present opening time. Presents! Presents! The rest was a little girl striking in delight at all the surprises while her two parents watched on. Chloe handed me a steaming cup of coffee and pulled me close. She pointed at her sweater. You like it? Some old guy just deleted it last night while you were out. I love it, Chloe. Always be my most treasured gift. What is it? I didn't want to bring anyone down while Waste was tearing through the passages. Her laughter was emphasis. And while my confusion was still top of mind, I couldn't help but to just wrap my arms around my best friend and walk on. I'll tell you later, okay? I struggled into her side. Merry Christmas, Chloe. Same back to you, Chloe. Dork. Same back to you, Dork. And that's the story. Hi everyone. This is Americ 2000 again. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Because, I really did enjoy making it. But, so I hope you enjoyed it. Comment, like, and subscribe with the notifications on down below. Till next time, bye!